The hag's yellowed eyes gleamed with malevolence as she spread her arms wide, the cabin around her darkening as if the very shadows obeyed her will. Her grin stretched unnaturally, splitting her face like a gaping wound. The hag, you trespass in my domain, little morsels. Let's see how well you fare when you cannot trust what you see. The air crackled with dark magic. A wave of sickly green mist erupted from her gnarled fingers, rushing toward the party. Boris, acting on instinct, lunged forward, his axe carving through the air, only to meet nothing but smoke. The hag cackled as her form shimmered, splitting into 3 identical copies, each leering at them with malice. Edward's vision blurred, his breath hitched as shadows flickered at the edges of his sight. The curse from the corrupted tree stirred within him, twisting his senses. The walls of the cabin seemed to melt and shift, and suddenly, Leary wasn't where she had been. She was on the opposite side of the room, yet also beside him. No, there were 2 of her. Which was real? Edward... Leary, move, he shouted, firing an arrow at one of the images. But as soon as the arrow struck, the illusion dissolved into mist. Leary snapped, ducking away from an unseen force. She spun, summoning twisting vines from the cabin floor, but they lashed wildly, grasping at illusions as the hag's laughter echoed through the darkened courtyard. A frightened whimper caught Leary's ear. She turned, spotting the small wooden cage where the missing girl, no older than 7, huddled in terror. Her large eyes shimmered with tears, tiny hands clutching the bars. "Girl, please help me. She said she's going to take my soul." "Leary, we're getting you out of here, sweetheart. Hold on." Sylvan gritted her teeth, her fingers alight with frost. She clenched her hands, sending shards of ice spiraling through the mist, hoping to shatter the illusion. But instead of striking the hag, the ice hit Boris. Boris. Sylvan, what in the abyss was that? Sylvan, I thought... Yes, distrust, confusion. Let it fester. You cannot win. Edward's heart pounded. He tried to shake the dizziness clouding his mind, but his limbs felt sluggish. The curse was growing stronger. His hands trembled on his bowstring. He turned and saw Boris swinging his axe at him. "Damn it, Boris! I'm on your side!" he yelled, dodging at the last second. But Boris looked just as bewildered. "Then stop bloody moving like a shadow. You weren't there a second ago." The hag's spell was working. She was making them doubt each other. If they didn't break free soon, they'd turn on each other entirely. Enough. Leary slammed her staff into the floor, a pulse of nature's energy radiating outward. The vines she had summoned recoiled, twisting and searching through the mist. They could still feel what was real. Focus. Close your eyes if you have to. Feel the air, the magic. She's in front of the cauldron, the real one. Edward forced himself to steady his breath. He focused past the haze, listening to the heartbeat of the battle. There, a flicker of real movement amid the illusions. The hag's true form. Boris. "Straight ahead," he called, hoping to break through the Minotaur's hesitation. Boris hesitated for only a heartbeat before charging. His axe cleaved through the mist, connecting with something solid. The hag shrieked as the illusion shattered, revealing her hunched form. Real. Vulnerable. Sylvan wasted no time. With a flick of her wrist, She summoned a razor-sharp spike of ice and sent it hurtling toward the hag. It impaled her shoulder, pinning her against the wooden wall. The hag shrieked, her body convulsing as darkness billowed from her wound. She wasn't done yet. With a final, desperate act, she extended her clawed hand and whispered something under her breath, directly toward Edward. Pain lanced through his skull. A curse, a final, lingering touch of her dark magic. His vision tunneled, his body seizing. The last thing he saw was Leary rushing toward him, shouting his name. Then darkness consumed him. Edward lay still, his breath shallow, his copper scales tinged with a sickly darkness. Leary knelt beside him, hands glowing faintly as she tried to push her healing magic into him. But it wasn't enough. The curse had dug deep, far beyond her power to undo. Nearby, the little girl sniffled, wiping her tear-streaked face. Leary forced a small, reassuring smile. Sylvan rifled through the hag's belongings, her hands shaking. Boris wiped his axe clean, his expression grim. It was Leary who found the hag's tattered spellbook, her fingers trailing across the brittle pages. There, a passage written in spidery script. Sylvan exhaled sharply. Boris nodded. Neither one was sure if Edward would pull through. It was dark magic, after all. Leary's hands tightened around the book. She looked at her fallen friend. She was determined to heal her companion.